mad situation actually that happened last night in the Argentina-Brazil game with Romero and Lo Celso, with officials coming onto the pitch to call off the game. I mean, so basically, this is the way it is that Argentina, when you go into Brazil, you need to state, if you've been in the UK or several other countries, Romero and Lo Celso didn't state on their forms that they've been in the UK.
And Martinez and
Buendía. But if they did state that, they would have had to quarantine in Brazil for 14 days. So they obviously left it out on purpose or not on purpose, whatever it may be. If it's on purpose, it was clearly in a way to get on that pitch and play the game. But I don't understand how they can get past that, because they were clearly in England on TV for millions to see a few days before that. Anyway, it gets past that. They're in Brazil for 3 days, and it gets within 5 minutes of the game, and officials are running onto the pitch to stop this game happening.
It's crazy situation.
The scenes were absolutely nuts, but I don't understand how it got to that stage when they were in Brazil for 3 days prior to this game. Why did they have to wait up until kickoff to stop this game?
There's a great thread on EAF Soccer, and it gives a whole timeline of how events played out yesterday. So maybe it'd be interesting just to go through it.
Let's go through it.
So it says, so this is a timeline of how, as of yesterday, how it all went down, basically between Lo Celso, Martinez, Romero, and Buendía. So it says Martinez, Romero, Buendía, and Lo Celso lied about having been in England within the last 2 weeks in order to enter Brazil. And Visa is basically Brazil's health ministry. They were alerted about this breach earlier yesterday in the morning. And Visa and the federal police went to Argentina team hotel to detain and deport the 4 players in question. But when they got to the hotel, they had already gone to the stadium. So Brazil's federal government negotiated with CBF and CONMEBOL, which is the Brazilian FA, to give an exemption to the Argentinian players, which was granted. Yes, this all happened yesterday. And Visa, however, rejected the motion and headed to the stadium. So there's a bit of a miscommunication. As is customary of Sao Paulo, the traffic from the team hotel where Anvisa officials was awful, and they were stuck in traffic, delaying their arrival to the stadium.
Can't put their sirens on or something?
Yeah, apparently not. It says so literally they're stuck in traffic waiting to detain these players.
This is like literally schoolboy stuff.
This is so funny. This is a comedy sketch.
It's basically a comedy sketch, like something that you would see on something like Mr. Bean or
literally,
something. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. It says upon arrival to the stadium, the Anvisa officials and federal police met with the CBF and CONMEBOL officials, who told them that the match could proceed. However, Anvisa meanwhile said there's no chance the match was going to proceed, and they overruled them. By this point, the match had already started. The Anvisa officials and federal police took to the sidelines to chat to the Argentinian FA. After discussions with the Argentina sidelines, Anvisa officials and the federal police marched onto the field and halted the match. After this, the Argentinian players walked off the pitch. Anvisa and the federal police are still trying to get the 4 Argentinian players involved in the matter, while the entire Argentinian team is in the dressing room. Argentina's FA announced the match was suspended. The discussions yesterday were currently ongoing behind the scenes at the stadium between the Anvisa officials, CONMEBOL, Argentinian FA, and the federal police as to how they would proceed. Then there was an official announcement released stating that the players had been halted due to the 4 Argentinian players lying and failing to follow health regulations and COVID protocols. And then part of Argentina's squad yesterday were locked themselves in the dressing room after refusing to let the federal police or Anvisa officials enter, which was crazy. While this was also
Sounds
going
like an
on,
episode of Money Heist.
it was mad. While it was all going on, Brazil's manager Tite was entertaining the crowd, with trying to show off some football skills to try and keep the crowd entertained while this was all going on.
I saw the Brazil squad went back out.
Yeah, and they did. So they did an open training session, so that the fans didn't feel like it was a wasted journey. Reports were emerging that the Sao Paulo's traffic authority was organising a coach to escort the Argentina squad to leave the stadium. The destination at that point wasn't specified. Brazil's technical staff were in deep discussions as to how they would proceed. The Brazilian team then held an open training session for all the fans to witness, as to not feel like they wasted their time. The AFA officials were then on live TV in Argentina denying that the 4 players lied about being in England within the last 2 weeks. Then CBF came out and stated this was not their decision, and they had argued for the match to be played, which they had received clearance for from the federal government. So it seems to be a whole thing from Anvisa, the health ministry, kind of overruling everyone else, saying these players had to leave and weren't accepting any exemptions.
Yeah.
The official ruling as to the outcome of the match will be decided by FIFA. There's rumours, though, that Brazil were going to be handed the win if the Argentinian players were found to be in breach of protocol. And basically ended up with yesterday, the Argentina players did get on a plane back to Argentina, as confirmed by a picture released by the AFA with, you can see Emi Martinez on the plane. With the rest of the Argentina squad back to Argentina, so they did end up not being detained by the. They didn't get detained in the end by the officials and ended up getting on the way back to Argentina.
I was
mess,
reading
though.
up about this, and the maximum penalty for what they did in Brazil is 10 years in jail.
10 years,
and the maximum if they did this in England, the maximum sentence would be 5 years in jail.
It's crazy. Imagine they got 5 years in jail in Brazil.
It would be classic Spurs, though. You sign Romero 55 million, and then he goes to jail literally for 10 years.
So what a crazy situation that happened. I was watching the game because I remember there was all in the lead up to the game yesterday, like a couple hours before the game. It was like. There were some people saying that the health ministry of Brazil have said that these players have to be deported and they shouldn't be in Brazil, and it's an outrage that they're here and all that kind of stuff. And yet then I saw other people saying they've all three of the players were starting the game and they were announcing the lineup and everything, and I was like, what's going on here? They going to be deported, or are they starting the game? It's crazy. And then I was like, okay, I got to tune in and see what's going on. And then the game started. They're all there. I was like, okay, so they're starting the game. And then I was watching some stream that wasn't in English, so I couldn't understand what was going on. And all of a sudden, I just see some like people like get onto the pitch and like everyone's crowding around and something. I was like. And the commentary was all in Portuguese. I had no idea what was going on. I was trying to work. I was like, something's going on. I've got no idea. So I had to take to Twitter to see like what people were saying about what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
But absolute mad scenes, and it kind of makes a mockery of their decision to go in the end, doesn't it? Completely.
Of course
completely.
It does. I mean, it wouldn't have made a mockery of the decision if they stayed at home for the Brazil game and played the 2 games in Argentina, because that would have been fine. It was all the point of, though, they went from Argentina to Brazil, and it was the current rulings in Brazil that kind of, I mean, it's just incompetence, isn't it, from everyone. It's incompetence from Tottenham not letting these players know that they need to do it. It's incompetence from these players not doing their own due diligence and knowing that the rulings behind it or are just a complete faced lie. It's one of those two, and it's complete incompetence from the Argentinian FA as well.
Oh, the Argentinian FA has to hold the brunt of responsibility, for sure. This whole situation, because to not know the rules of their their players when they're so demanding, apparently, of them being called up for these games, and they're so apparently they're threatening to Celso Romero and stuff like that. Like, if you don't come, you're not going to be in the World Cup squad and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and you have to play this game.
All that's kind of rumours, but I can see that happening.
Well, Ali Gold said they were apparently under significant pressure from the Argentinian FA to travel and to ignore what Tottenham had to say. We'll get into Ali Gold bit in a moment, but if that's all true, you've got to make sure they can bloody play. Like, what's the point in putting them all under all that pressure and then coming to a situation like this where they're supposed to be quarantined and causing a whole international incident now?
Yeah.
That's all down. That's all pretty much down to the Argentinian FA. When it comes to Spurs, I put out a tweet yesterday saying they hold a portion of the blame. I think looking at the situation now as it stands, I was probably wrong. Because I think,
how could Spurs hold a portion of the blame?
Because they allowed them to travel. They should have blank out refused.
Well, how can you? I don't think you can blank out refuse.
You can. No, you can blank out refuse. But what happened was they defied what Tottenham said. I didn't know this obviously at the time yesterday. I thought that Spurs and the players came to an agreement as to how to go forward on international duty, and the players wanted to go because of all these situations, and I thought what happened was Spurs reluctantly agreed to it.
From my understanding is that that Premier League statement happened, right? On the day of that Premier League statement, at the end of that day, a few hours later, it was still confirmed that they were going to go to Argentina, right? So from my understanding is that Tottenham were kind of acting upon that Premier League statement and kind of strongly advising them not to go, not actually forcing them not to go, right? So they were strongly advising them not to go, and they completely defied Tottenham, kind of in that decision. But it wasn't a kind of necessity. It was just a kind of ask. It wasn't a necessity.